Hi guys, in this video we're going to learn about the Vuma game. The Vuma game was the first game invented for loop and switch, and you won't be surprised to hear that it was invented by Cody. Now, when they were younger, loop and switch used to argue a lot, and whenever they played, loop would always win because of his robotic legs. So Cody came up with the Vuma game as a way of making it fair to both of them. In this game, they take it in turns to move closer and closer to Moby, who's using his sonar sensor. But if someone comes too close, the alarm gets set off and that person has lost. So let's have a look at how we can make our own Vuma game. Okay, so everything's set up for the Vuma game. Now to begin with, loop and switch just need to move out of the way. So I've got my sonar sensor here, just like Moby has, and over on the keyboard I'm going to type Y. Now you should see the green light has come on. That means the game is ready to play. Loop and switch need to take it in turns to move closer and closer to the board. So switch is going to go first, and she's going to stand there. So green light is still on, no buzzer, so she's safe. Now it's loop's turn. Now he has to come in front of switch without setting off the alarm. Okay, now he's safe, so it's switch's turn. She has to come in front again, and she's safe. Now you can see loop has no advantage with his robotic legs in this game. Now he has to stand in front again, and so loop set off the alarm, which means he's lost. So that's how to play the Vuma game. Now I'll show you how to connect everything up and look at the code.
So the first thing we're going to do is set up our sonar. If you want to know more about how the sonar works, go and check out the sonar tutorial video. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to connect the sonar to a breadboard and then to the Arduino Uno. So I'm going to take my sonar, and for the game, I'm going to place it somewhere around the center of the board. Doesn't exactly matter where you put it, it's up to you, but somewhere about there should be fine, and gently push it in. Next, I'm going to connect this to the Arduino Uno. So first of all, I'm going to take a jumper cable, and I'm going to start off looking at the labels here. We've got our ground, echo, trigger, and VCC, which is the power. So I'm going to start with the VCC to get some power to our sonar. So I'm going to put my jumper cable in. Remember, it doesn't matter where I put it in this line, but it must be lined up with the VCC pin. So to keep things simple, I'm not going to put it too close, just going to put it about there, should do it. So I've placed that in there, and this is going to my power on the Arduino Uno, which is my 5 volts, which is just there. My 5 volts, that's my power coming out. So I'm going to plug that into there. That's in the 5 volts. Next, we need to use ground. So I'm going to take another jumper cable, and this time I'm going to line it up with my ground pin, which is this end, and making sure I'm on the correct line, place it in there, just so you can have a look. And this is going to one of my ground ports on the Arduino Uno. And to keep things simple, I'm just going to put it right next to the 5 volts where it says GND for ground. So I'll let you have a look at that. So my 5 volts and my ground next door. So that's my sonar connected with power, and to ground. Next I need to do my echo and trigger. Now these are explained in the sonar tutorial video, so I won't go over that again now. Just going to look at connecting them up. So let's have a look in there. Get it closer so you can see. Let's get these out of the way, shall we? Now I'm going to go from my trigger, which is next to the VCC. Let's get it in there. My trigger. And now I'm going to connect it to the other side of my Uno board. Now, there are different numbers you can use, but the code that I've given you on the website uses the number 10 pin for the trigger. So this one for the trigger is going to go into the number 10 on here. And that's just because I've used number 10 in the code, which we'll look at later. So it's going into number 10. So that's my trigger sending out the signal, and my echo, which is the one that we have left here. See if I can get in there and show you. Just there, where it says echo. So that I need to connect up, and my echo is going to go to the number 9 pin. And again, I'm using number 9 just because that's the number I've already used in the code that I have supplied. Great, that's our sonar already connected up. Now you should already have your sonar connected, as we've just seen. So the next step in the Vuma game, we need to have our two LEDs, the green light that tells you to start playing, the red light that tells you you've got too close, and of course the buzzer, that if you hear that, that means the game is over. So let's have a look. Let's start with the green light, shall we? Now I like to have the green light over this side of the board. So I'm just going to put it in. Now if you see one of our introductory tutorials, then you will know about the difference between the legs. We have our longer positive pin and the shorter negative or ground. I'm not going to go into that in detail now. Check out one of the other tutorials for that. I'm just going to show you how to connect it up. Now you need to remember which leg is which. So one way to do that is I'm going to remember that I've put the short pin on the outside of the board, and I'm going to plug it in just there. Okay, with this one being my shorter leg. So let's deal with the shorter negative or ground leg first. So I need to go from that leg, so along, let's get that so you can see. So along this line, I'm going to plug in there, and I'm going to take that to my negative line on the board. So I'm going from the negative line there, crossing the gap here, joining to here, which then joins to the shorter leg. So that's connected there. Then I'm going to join up my negative line. So I'm just going to plug in there. Now make sure, get this out of the way, make sure you've come along just there. I'm using that blue line as a guide. So these two are now connected through the board along there, and this one is connected over here to that shorter leg there. So this one that I have here, this needs to go to my ground on the Uno board. Let's move these things out of the way. And this time I'm going to this ground over this side of the board. Just there, we've got GND, that's ground. Make sure you don't get it in the wrong one. And that's leading over to my breadboard along this blue line. And then through this one, we're connected along here, which is connected to the shorter leg of the LED. So that shorter leg is now connected to ground on the board. And the next step, I need to connect the longer leg to a positive or to one of these numbers. Now the green light, let me just get so you can see here. So I'm just going to put it next to that one. And that's now connected. Let's move these wires out the way. So that's connected through the board here. And this one is now going to go to number 12 on the board. Again, the only reason that I'm going to number 12 is because that's the number I've used in the code already. So in the code, it's using the number 12 output for the green light. And we'll see that later on when we see the code. So that's number 12 is connected to the longer leg of the green LED, and the shorter leg is connected to the negative line, which is here, which is going into ground. Okay, so if we've done that for the green LED, we need to do the same for the red LED. Now, if you're feeling confident, perhaps you would like to have a go at connecting up the red LED on your own. If you do that, then I'll just let you know to connect it to number 13 on the Uno board, because in the code, number 13 is used for the red LED. So if you think you can connect it up on your own, have a go. Then follow the video to see if you've got everything correct. If not, don't worry, I'm going to show you now how to do it. So let's take our red LED. Again, we have the two legs, the longer positive and the shorter negative or ground. And just to help me remember, I'm going to put the shorter ground leg on the outside of the board so I remember where I've put it. And I'm going to have the red LED the other side of the board over here. So that's going in there with the shorter leg going on the outside. Great. So now I know that my shorter leg is just there, and that has to be connected to my ground. So take another jumper cable, and same method as before. I'm just going to, if I put it along here, make sure it's in that line just there. But any of these holes is fine. I'm going to put it there. And that one has to connect to my negative line. So I'm just going to bring it down here, next to that blue line, just there. That's going over and around there, and that's connected to the short negative leg. And this blue line is connected all the way along there. So this is now connected to this one, if you remember before, and this one is connected to our ground port on the Uno. So simply by doing that, I've now connected this leg to here, which is then connected to this one, which is connected to ground. And that's how we can connect several things to the one ground port on the board. Great, so that's the ground done already for the red LED. Now I just need to do the positive. So I'm just going to put this in the hole next to it, just there. Oh, hope you can see okay. So I've just popped that one in just there, and that's connected along this line to this, which is the longer leg, just there. And now this needs to go to one of my output numbers on the board, and I'm going to put it into number 13. Okay, oops. Try and hold it so you can see. So I'm just going into number 13 there, because in the code I've already said that I want to use number 13 for the red light. So I'm going from 13 over and around here to there, which is connected to the longer leg, and I've got my shorter leg here connected through this one to that blue line, which is already connected to the ground there. So that's my red LED already set up, and the next step will be to connect the buzzer. So I'm all ready to go with my buzzer, and the buzzer is connected in the same way as the LEDs really. You can see here we still have our longer leg and our shorter one which goes to ground, longer one which will go to one of the output numbers, and just a case of finding a place to put it and making sure you don't get confused with where your connections are going. Now I'm just going to put it in the somewhere in between the two lights there, and the trickiest part here is remembering which leg is which and also finding that again on the board. So I'm just going to pop it in there. It doesn't really matter exactly where you put it, but you do have to remember where you have put the shorter leg. So I'm just going to put it there. I'm not putting it in all the way. That would be all the way like that, which we do want later. But for now, just so that I can see where those legs are, I'm just putting it in a little bit. Now remembering this side over here is my shorter negative leg. That's the short one. If I pull that out, you can see. So I'm just going to pop it in like that, just sticking out a little bit. So this shorter one here, because I've got to line it up, you get a little closer, because it's got to be lined up there. If I push it all the way in, sometimes it's hard to find where that leg was. So I'm just going along that line, putting it there, and that's my negative. You can see there. And that has to be connected to my, again, to the blue line, to the negative line on here. And again, that's connected all the way along to this one, which is going to my ground port on the Uno. So that's going to there, and then along here to that short leg. And finally, I need to connect the positive leg. So I can see that that one is along this line here. This is why I leave it sticking out a bit. Otherwise it's hard to find where those legs are. So it's along here. Make sure you're on the correct line. I'm just going to put that in there. You can see that's going along this line, which is where that longer leg is. Now I can push that buzzer down gently. So I can push the buzzer down, and this one now needs to go to an output number on the board, and I have left number 11 free for the buzzer. And again, number 11 is the number used in the code for the buzzer. So if you followed along to this point, just need to pop it in between all those others, just there, and that will go to number 11 on the port. And if you've managed to do that, then your board is already connected up and almost ready to play the Vuma game. The next step will be moving over to the computer and connecting it up to the Arduino software. So now we're ready to connect our Uno board to our computer, and we do this through this USB cable here. So the squarish end is going to go into my Uno board, and there's only one way it's going to fit, so don't need to force it. Just look carefully, line it up and push it in, and make sure it's gone in there as far as it can go. You don't have to push really hard. There is a little bit of a gap left, but it feels nice and firmly connected. And then taking the other end and connecting that to a USB port on your laptop or desktop. So I'm just going to get that connected, and the thing to look out for on the board is that you're going to see a flashing light that tells you that it's connected, and over here that it's on. So if that's come on, that means you are connected, and we're ready to move over to the computer and upload the code to this board. So once you've downloaded the code from the website, find where you downloaded it, and you're looking for the Vuma game. Double click, and that will open up. So once your Vuma code is open, you should be seeing something like this. The Vuma game opened up in the Arduino software. Now there's a couple of things to check, especially if this is the first time you've connected your Arduino Uno board. Now I'm on a Mac, but it's pretty much the same if you're on Windows. So we need to go to Tools, and two very important things here. One is the board, is the Arduino Uno board. You'll see it says Uno on there, so that must be selected. And the other one is the port. That means the USB port that it's connected to. And I can see here I've got two. One is about Bluetooth, but I want this one connected because that's the Arduino Uno board. So make sure those things are selected, otherwise you're going to have trouble uploading. Once you've done that, you should be able to go to the upload arrow here, click that, and you'll see it's compiling and uploading, and everything's done now, done uploading, no errors. If you get errors, then it could be because your board is not connected, or you haven't selected the Uno board here, or you haven't selected the correct port. So if you have trouble, it's worth double checking that everything is plugged in correctly and that you've selected the correct board and port. Now at this stage, when it says done uploading, you're ready to play, but you do have to go up here to the serial monitor, click that to open it, and it will say type Y to play. So I press Y, enter, and if you look at your board now, the green light should be on. It says start playing, and once you get too close to the board, then game is over, you've lost. It also tells you the distance, and if you want to play again, type Y, and you should see the green light come on your board. You can play again, get too close, and lose. So I'm just going to close that. That's pretty much all you need to know. I will go through the code in more detail in another video, but for now you can see here how we've assigned these numbers on the board. As we were connecting it up, I told you which number to put it into, and that's just because I've already selected those numbers in the code. Can change these numbers around, but it's easier for now if you just go with what's already set up, and as you learn more you'll be able to make changes. So we had the sonar trigger pin as number 10, and the echo pin was number 9. Remember that the red LED was into number 13, and the green was plugged into 12, and the buzzer, the last thing we did, was plugged into number 11. So you'll see how these numbers match the ports that we plugged everything into on the board. Okay, that's all for now. I hope you've succeeded in that and that you can have some fun playing the Vuma game. I'll see you again in another video.